I'm Mark Bouris and this is Straight Talk.
You're the Mark Bouris I was exactly hoping for. Slightly guarded, mildly gruff. Your curiosity has to be earned. That is exactly the Mark Bouris that I want, and I'm enjoying it.
Ed Kavalee.
Ed Kavalee.
Ed Kavalee, welcome to Straight Talk.
Here we are. I find doing work is a reward. The reward doesn't have to come afterwards.
The great painter Picasso used to say the same thing.
Come on.
Yeah.
Let's get some Pissarro chat going. So many people would go to Picasso here, but not you. Shiraz.
Well, you're not a drinker. How did you know that?
I got paid to say I was.
Okay.
I can't be asked trying to impress people by being funny the whole time. I'd rather just ask them questions about themselves and learn something, and the comedian in me gives me the ability to look around and go, oh, that's funny, or that's funny, or that's funny. But then also, oh, that's interesting, that's interesting. If I had it my way, you wouldn't ask me a single question in this today.
Yeah, I know, I can see that.
And in my mind, I thought when you were reading the brief, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to knock him off that fucking brief. It's a good question.
Wow, I got you stumped.
You do.
Ed Kavalee, welcome to Straight Talk, mate.
Thank you very much for having me.
Just straight in from Southern Cross, Australia, the Today FM mothership.
That's absolutely right. Just finished with Husey and Aaron on Today FM Breakfast. Walked up the road and here we are.
I'm glad you got your best gear on.
I am, Mark, originally a Queenslander. And
oh, no, don't tell me that.
Well, if another Queenslander sees me in winter
High five, yeah.
wearing pants, the wires will go out. Someone will call someone and I'll get a phone call from Gordon Tallis saying, mate, I heard you're wearing shorts. I heard you're wearing pants.
And where's the shorts?
Yeah, where are the shorts?
I thought you were going to sort of tell me something about the state of origin there. I got a little bit of a worry.
I think that they might have to wrap that up. As we're recording this, New South Wales have capitulated, and there are a number of reasons for that, which I'm sure we could go into at another point because I do love my footy, as I know you do, but that's a topic for another day. Man, I've got a question to start us off.
Go for it. Start us off.
Yes, I'm a fan of the show.
STUD. Did you say start us off or start?
Start us
start.
off.
Oh, I thought you said start.
Just start. Well, it is a stud question, actually.
Okay, go for it.
In the Matthew Riley episode, which I very much enjoyed, you said that you were, quote, friends with David Hasselhoff because you, quote, used to see a girl whenever you were in LA who was friends with David Hasselhoff.
With his wife.
With his wife.
Yep.
Right. Who was that?
What was her name?
Yes, please.
She'd probably prefer not to be named at this stage. But why do you ask? Because she's a very famous Afghani woman, born in Afghanistan and rescued by Henry Kissinger.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Her father was the head of Treasury of Afghanistan. And when the war started, she was rescued.
And how did you meet?
I met her... We'll just do a reverse interview here for a second.
Yes, we will.
I met her in Cannes at the film festival.
And what had taken you there that time?
I was a speaker for Toyota, and they had an event on there, a global event, and they asked me to go and address a whole lot of people.
What was what was your topic?
Economics as usual at that stage, anyway.
Right.
And I met her there. She was what was she? She was a guest. She was with Natalie Cole, who was the main singer there for the event, and she was her best mate.
Wow.
And I met her there, but I met her there, but she was like surrounded by CIA security.
I can imagine.
Guys with things in their ears and
stuff
like that. Yeah, but I became quite close to her, and I used to visit her, and she lived in LA. And she was mates with David's missus.
You're right.
And so me and the Hoff got to meet each other through that connection.
So it was sort of reverse showbiz.
It was sort of reverse showbiz.
Yes.
But that was the time when I used to drink, and as did the Hoff. I don't know if he stopped drinking now, but him and his missus used to drink a lot.
When did you stop?
Some time ago.
As did I.
Yeah. Well, I did. What was your reason?
I couldn't have one. It's either, and I was at university, at Sydney University, and Tuesday started not to mean anything because I was at university, I was finishing, I didn't really have any direction. And it was actually quite close to here at one of the pubs that was there where there was a party, and I just realised that you learn things about yourself as you go, and I realised that it was either one didn't mean one meant we're going to the moon. And I thought, right, that's it. And I flicked a switch in my head, and I remember I was living in a warehouse on Cleveland Street, and one night I woke up and the bread was running away and across the floor and trying to escape down the thing, and I ran back into my girlfriend's room and I said, the bread's running away. And she said, I don't know if it is. I think you might have partied too hard. And I said, I guarantee the bread's running away. And I was very upset about this. And the next morning we found out that it was rats that had grabbed the bread and pulled it down. And I was so distressed by the whole thing that I thought, I don't know if going forward, this is the way for me.
So did you stop
cold that day?
You've never had a drink since? Wow.
Nothing.
And we would have been in your 20s.
Yeah, it's 24.
Yeah, so it's like half your life ago.
Yep.
And so you don't drink at all now? Nothing? You do you ever feel tempted?
Yes, but not. No, it was no. Short answer, no, because I kind of know. I know the future, and I can see people around me and stuff like that. And I've kind of cottoned on early on that one of the few lessons I did learn, I guess, in my 20s was that to go know thyself, and I couldn't have one, so that was it. It had to go.
But do you think it's giving up drink? Was it because something scared you or frightened you, or is it all the shit that goes with it too? By the way, maybe meeting the wrong people, doing dumb stuff, eating a whole lot of shit for days.
Yeah.
What was the event?
I think it's more that I thought maybe I'd try and have a career in entertainment, but I don't know if you know this, Mark, but when you finish an arts degree at Sydney University, the job offers don't come flooding in. And I sort of finished that. And honestly, it was a choice of, if I'm going to have a proper go at this, even not really even knowing what that meant, I think I'm going to need all my faculties about me. And the one thing I would always able to do, which I know is similar to your story, is I was a worker. I liked to work. I got when I was 10 years old, I was just living with my mum, and I would go to Chatswood Chase car park with a bucket, and I would ask people if I could wash their cars while they went shopping. Now, that's not to say I, carried my horse through the snow in the Depression, but I've always been a worker, and I thought I could feel it already, even in casual jobs, it was affecting my ability to rock up. And I thought, that's not the way forward. So if I'm going to outwork people, or if I'm going to try, it's not going to work for me.
So do you think that you worked out pretty quickly effort equals reward?
I think so.
Yeah, like around, not 10, but sort of around that territory.
Well, obviously, I was raised by my mother, and she always worked. And as you know, when you see examples, either good or bad, that's what has the effect. And I saw work there, and because I had jobs early, and I had really good, mentors is the wrong word, but really good sort of older people at work who I looked up to, even at casual jobs. Like I worked at a video shop when I was 14, and in Old Southhead Road, and they were just guys who went to work, and I just looked up. I don't know what it was. It was something about work that I found rewarding. I know it's a long, boring way of saying exactly what you just said, but there is a switch in you that, as you know, that goes off, that goes, work is a good thing, and the rewards are doing it. I find doing work is a reward. The reward doesn't have to come afterwards.
Yeah, well, the great painter Picasso used to say the same thing.
Come on.
Yeah.
Let's get some Picasso chat going.
Well, because
many people would go to Picasso here, but not you.
No, I went straight to Picasso.
Come on.
Picasso's
Let's go.
A bit more recent. But Picasso, because I wanted to put a bit of longevity on it, and longevity is a topic we might talk about a bit later. But Picasso is always took the view that it didn't matter what the outcome was in terms of the quality of the painting. It was the effort you put into it that really made it valuable, particularly to yourself. So, I mean, this whole concept of work ethic, it was interesting to talk to a comedian, a radio host, a father, someone who's very conscious of his life and his partner's life. We'll talk about who your partner is in a moment. But that work ethic piece would not normally be attributed by most to people like who does a radio show. Because I think most people go, you just turn up to work at 6 a.m. and they leave at 9 and get paid a shitload of money. How good's that? I love that.
Yes.
It's not quite the way it is it?
It's not. And short answer, no, it's not. And you can't do radio for a fairly long period of time, as I've been lucky enough to do thus far. A, you have to love it, and B, you have to understand that it's coming back tomorrow. And there's another 3 hours. And if you enjoy filling that 3 hours with the people that you're with, you can stay with it. But if you don't, then no, because it's the most like a job that entertainment has. It's the most like a job in terms of, it's not like a real job in terms of people who actually do actual work, but in terms of it, you are here at this time every single day, and it's happening again tomorrow, and it's happening for 40 odd weeks of the year. It is the most like a job. And so it sorts people out very quickly.
And how do you work out your material? Like, just explain to us how it gets produced, because obviously you don't get up at midnight and work it out yourself. I mean,
so we've got a WhatsApp group with our producers and stuff during the day. We've got things that sort of run for a little while, so there's sort of story arcs that we'll be running, so you sort of piece together. But look, and I want to talk to you about your experience in television in a moment, if please, but with radio too. And you would have this for all your various ventures. So you can look at the ASX, the 200 or whatever. You can look at the thing, but you're looking at it through, like Terminator. You've got a filter that a lifetime has built. You're looking at it not the way I look at it. I look at it, I don't know what this nonsense is. You are looking at that through the filter.
Still nonsense when I look at it, but it doesn't matter.
But it's nonsense.
Yeah, I know.
Whereas I'm more likely to go, Pilbara, I'll get involved. So but you know that, That's what happens with radio in your life. You develop a radio filter. So everything that happens to you, everything you see, every news story, every something like that, it goes into your mind, and that's how you are able to do that. And what's great about it, and I think one of the best things about doing it, and people who do it well, is, Mark, this unbelievable bank of odd knowledge and relationships that you build up in your head between things that have happened. So I can talk to Hughes.
It's funny you touch the back of your head. Why did you touch the back of your head?
Isn't that where memory sits? Isn't that where longer term memory sits?
No, I'm asking you that. Why do you feel as though that's?
Because sometimes I honestly feel like that's where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So jokes sit in the front of you. Anyone who wants to know the mind of a comedian, jokes sit in the front of your mind. They appear like an image, and they flash up, and then you say them, and then you move on, and then it disappears. Whereas you sort of dig through, and as you're digging through, you're sort of picking up things, and you sort of make connections in your head. Oh yeah, there was a story about that. Oh, didn't we play that along? Oh, okay, yeah, it's like that, and then it sort of rolls itself forward.
It's interesting. I mean, the camera would have picked that up, but I was watching your eyes look to the back of your head then, as well as you touch the back of your head. You're actually looking to the back of your head to try and find the thing you're trying to remember. I
was actually sifting through about stories about Hasselhoff. I was thinking that back to what we spoke about before, and I was thinking about times that I've interviewed him, and I've got an image now of being at the hotel next to the opera house, which looks out, but I can't remember what the film is. So someone would help me fill that. Oh yes, and then we've got a grab from that, and then other stories from down the way.
So you'll flow that into the WhatsApp group.
Or
your
if there's something
crew,
exactly right, and then we'll
your
talk
colleagues,
my
Hughes,
colleagues,
etc. They'll all be on there.
And everyone's on there, and then we'll come in the morning and we'll sift again, because overnight things have changed. And the beauty of breakfast, if it's done right, is that it's of the day. You shouldn't be able to listen to a breakfast show podcast from last Thursday and have it all make sense. Some of it should feel as though it's ancient history. If it's being done correctly, and I'm sorry, but there is a way to do it correctly, you shouldn't be able to, it shouldn't be evergreen. So that's why when you see Howard Stern, one of the all-time greats, when he puts up clips of his show, which he does on Instagram all the time, it's always chats that are evergreen about people who are currently in the news, of former things that he said that link to what's happening now, or musical performances. Because there's one moment I remember really clearly. SCA moved buildings. We were in Bondi Junction, as you know, and we moved to World Square, and they were throwing out all the old CDs of breakfast shows that had taken place, because they used to just record them on CD. And I remember looking at them and going, they would have put their heart and soul into that if they were doing it right, and it's just going to get thrown away. And that's exactly as it should be, because it shouldn't be. The permanent record is not necessary, because if it's done right, I should put that CD on and have not a clue what they're talking about.
In terms of being able to use it again.
Exactly.
Yeah. But my God, I'd like to own those.
So would I.
Today.
I
mean, like you'd convert it all onto some sort of database and it'd be unreal.
I couldn't agree more. Yes, that's the downside.
Yeah.
There's that interesting story about how the news in the United States was not being recorded anywhere, except one citizen in Ohio was personally taping them herself and then gave it to the National Archive. And that's honestly why most of the news broadcasts you see from historical are from this woman. So the networks were taping over them.
So that's interesting you should say that, because do you, as an observer, do you find yourself as a comedian or as a radio host, particularly on a morning show, do you find yourself in life having to be more a participant or more an observer? In other words, because my gut feeling is you're a participant, but although you were asking questions, so I'm not sure if that's participatory questioning or if that's observatory questioning. So
if I had it my way, you wouldn't ask me a single question in this today.
Yeah, I know. I can see that.
Yeah.
But is that? But I'm trying to work it. Is that a participatory process that you have? That's how you participate, or is that a genuine observation? In other words, are you trying to produce a show or produce an outcome in this show?
No. So I've listened to your show, and I like it, and that's why I'm here. And so when I get here,
I thought you want to ask me a question.
I'm like, what am I going to sit here and just let Mark do all the asking? That's not fun. I would much rather have
Fun for you or me though, or
both.
for the audience.
I would much rather have. I think for everybody, I feel as though it would be more worthwhile's the wrong word to say, but more engaging if you and I are engaged in that way. And it's not
Will
just,
you marry me?
Oh, bloody oath.
No, but
With your
I
net
never-
worth?
Thank you.
I'll take a third right now. You sign a check.
I'll sign it. So, well, we definitely need a premarital agreement. So, but no, because I'm really curious about comedians. I've known a few comedians in my time, and
I have to jump in here quickly. The comedians you've had on this show
Yeah.
are people I know.
Yeah.
So I listened to the comedians first to hear what version of them, because I know them off air, that you were speaking to. Because that tells me what mode they were in when they got here, which tells me whether or not they thought you were someone that they could talk to and trust. And when I heard the people, and I won't name them, but when I heard those people speaking as I know them, in my head, I went, excellent. It is as I thought, that he's a curious guy and that this show is fun and authentic. Not that I can't go and do nonsense and we can just bang on and who cares? Or, all thanks to our very good friends at Insert Company here. But I was like, oh, this is great. X, Y, Z, they are speaking as themselves. Good fun.
yeah, well, I mean, I guess my process is to try and make them feel relaxed, because I'm not here to undress anybody or pull them apart. I'm actually here to hear their story and hear what I'm actually am genuinely curious as to what drives them and how they think and how they tick. And you're a bit of an oddball, relatively speaking. I mean, I don't mean in a bad way, but relatively speaking.
How do you mean it?
To the others?
How do you mean it?
Well, everyone's different. I mean, because you're making me think. And I'm not saying that didn't make me think, but
you can only live in the moment you're in. And right now, you're thinking. So that's all good. That's not a reflection on anyone past or future.
Yeah, no, totally. So you're making me think where I want to go with this. And each time I go there, I feel like I'm playing against Billy Slater or something, because every time I go left to right, he's sort of standing there already. And so I'm just trying to, that's why I'm trying to unpick you a little bit.
Sure.
So would you see yourself in life, though, as more an observer or a participant? Generally, life, not in work.
Oh, not in work?
Yeah.
Observer.
Oh,
good, yeah.
So if are you a person who will go to a coffee shop and sit there and just watch people come and go and think, look at where, what does that mean by an observer? I like to see where they sit. I like to see how many they bring with them.
Interesting.
I like to see how far apart they sit
That's
from each other. I like to watch how they interact with their hands and gestures.
That's interesting. And do you are you trying to extrapolate the relationship from these things?
I'm trying to work out a whole lot of things. I'm trying to work out, how they think. I'm trying to think to myself. For example, there's a girl on, I won't say which television station, but she does the weather, and I'm absolutely intrigued with the way she keeps using her hands. And now all of a sudden I've noticed that she stopped using her hands. I feel like someone's told her that she uses her hands too much, and she's actually, when she's holding them, she's actually squeezing them really tight. And I'm thinking to myself, is that because she's stressed out and something's happened in her life? And then I started looking whether she's got a wedding ring on or anything like that. And I'm trying to work out, did I see a wedding ring there before and there's no ring there now? What's happened in her life? Or has someone told her stop using your hands so much? Or has she become subconscious of her hands and is wringing her hands, but then all of a sudden her hands drop and go back to what she was doing before? I find that stuff intriguing. Just when she's describing where she is and where the weather is and how the weather will look. So when she goes point to Wagga.
Yeah, they're right.
But she has these very unusual shapes in her hands.
My first instinct, and I do want to talk. I'm not leaving here unless because you said something else in an interview that I was very intrigued by in terms of your experience with reality television. So my mind went exactly the same place as you. When you said the hands clasped, sort of interlocking is the way I'd use it. If you listen to this, so one over the other, like there are two claws, they would, I would say, absolutely she's been told. 100%.
Because that's interesting that someone told her then from my point of view in terms of an observation, because I found them quite distracting when she was doing it. And I often made commentary about it, and I would get pulled up in the room I was making commentary by various people who were watching the television with me. what are you doing? Why do you always have
What
to
was
know?
their opinion? Did they think was happening?
No, they didn't think anything, but they were more intent on having a crack at me for being so critical. I wasn't being critical; I was just making observations.
That's right.
But to some people, it might seem like you're being critical. So, which is where I want to get to. So, people who observe a lot can tend to be labelled as being critical. People who participate can be tend to be labelled as being more fun. So therefore, I can, outside of all this stuff, that I do podcasts and TV, whatever, I can be labelled as being a bit boring because I'm critical. I appear to be critical, but
Who
I'm
was
more.
the last person to call you boring?
Various people you don't know, but like they would, but because
You don't know who I know.
Oh, well, people. That's true. But people who are close to me, like friends and kids, my sons and all.
Now, are they
like,
old friends? Are they
well,
people
they're
you've known a long
so they
time?
definitely I've known them their whole lives. But they think that I'm boring because I tend to sit back and watch.
Yes.
And I might say.
Now, is that something ingrained in you from? Do you remember being a child doing that, or is that as part of your business life? I have a friend of mine who works in finance in London, and I'm fascinated because I'm fascinated by his world because of the way that he deals. He flies around the world talking to CEOs and CFOs, et cetera, right? And I'm always fascinated when he's going to see. He'll say, "Oh, I'm off to see the CFO of insert massive company here," right? And I'm always fascinated then to say to him, "How did it go?" And the comment that he will often make is about what they were like. Like, I'm not asking for details. I'm not trying for things, but he would always make something like what you just said there. He always comments about they did this in this manner, or that was in this manner, or was this in this manner. And then I think about this guy called Haralabos Voulgaris, who's a Greek guy who's a massive, he's a gambler. He made a lot of money gambling. And now he bought a soccer club in Spain. He does podcasts with Bill Simmons a lot. And he's fascinating because he would always talk about one of the edges that he got when he made a lot of money in, gambling and the arbitrage of, just knowing getting 60% right was enough, right? He developed a lot of models for behavior on the court before the teams cottoned onto it, so much so that a team employed him to then use that model. But one of the other things that he would always talk about was the coaches' interviews and how close attention he paid to the coaches' interviews, and not just what they were saying, but the way they were saying it. And I'm like, that is a big thing to use in a financial model that is for gambling, Mark. You know what I mean? So my question to you is that a question? Is that something you think was childhood ingrained, or was that part of your business life that you learnt so when someone was trying to tell you? And the best thing about our mine is that it's got all the copper in the world. And is that part of you trying to suss out what was being bullshitted to you and what wasn't?
No, I just think I've always been curious. I mean, I'm just curious about everything, and then I affirm that curiosity by the way I act. So all of a sudden, it's become part of my neurological makeup. So it's, I think, if as a kid I was always curious, always looking at stuff, playing around with stuff, trying stuff out, moving stuff around, seeing how people react, seeing how far I could push something, seeing how Mum would respond to something that I might do or say or not do or say. So I was always that way, and then I live like that. Outside of my mainstream. So I live like that. So what I'm doing is I'm affirming my own thought process.
Do you think it helped you in business?
Pardon me?
Do you think it helped you in business?
Well, sometimes. And I know people who are not like me but are really successful at business as well, if that's sort of what you're saying. I just think it's a different style. I also find being a participant quite tiring.
It is tiring.
Yeah,
really tiring.
I can do it. I can perform for a period of time. So when I do a lot of talks, so that's not observational. Well, it is to a little bit because I'm always watching the audience just to see how they're responding. But generally speaking, I am participating because I'm actually putting stuff out there on the stage. But I find that very tiring. That I can only do it for a period of time. Like when I was doing television, I found those 11, 12 hours a day exhausting, 7 days a week. It's just really exhausting.
Were you annoyed at the slowness?
I annoyed at the whole thing, repetition, repeat. Can we do that again? Someone sniffled, someone's microphone fell off. I had 12 competitors, or whatever you call it, contestants. Microphone fell off, someone's crying, someone doesn't want to go in, someone needs to go to the toilet. Like, stop, let's do the makeup again. It's extraordinarily repetitive.
It's got hurry up and wait.
What you see in that 42 minutes, it looks pretty glamorous.
Oh, I know.
But
But,
it's
yeah,
fucking
it's
takes a million hours to do.
So that's arduous. So there's a great story about the Apocalypse Now, one of the all-time great movies. There's a great story about how they tinkered. Coppola tinkered so much that they worked out. The editor did this great book where he said, if we had just done one cut per day that stayed in the film, rather than the continuous re-editing we did, we would have finished the film in the same amount of time.
Well, I did 80 hours for every 42 minutes.
Okay, what?
80 hours filming for every 42 minutes.
What are you talking about?
80 hours, per 42 minutes of television.
So have you been paying attention to the show I'm on? It is, we're in, we do the jokes, we're out of there.
Yeah, no, yours is much more efficient.
And that's Working Dog, the company that I work with a lot. They are, mate, no one gets it done like them. No one. They are just so far ahead in terms of vibe, scheduling, understanding that creative, and it's like it just shows over and over again, because that environment they create is just so conducive to people doing well, being funny, and doing a great job. It's amazing.
So, Ed, back to you.
Yeah, right.
Reckon you're an observer or a participant?
Oh, definitely.
More weight towards which one?
No, observer, of course.
And what about business? Then what about in work? Like what you do in work? I mean, obviously you got to participate on the radio, but there's three of you, isn't there? Is three behind? Is there one on the
panel
and two behind the phone?
There's a dude called Nick who's is paneling, and
Yep.
he panels. So I anchor, which means I sort of drive the show, the nuts and bolts.
Yep.
And then Husey and Aaron. So
Right. So there's three of you on the microphones.
Yeah.
And one driver, one
Panel operator.
technician.
Yeah.
Okay. So the three of you. So
Yeah.
when the three of you standing there,
Yeah.
I mean, sitting there, but what are we doing? Sitting on
Yeah,
your stools.
yeah.
How do you? How does it work? Who goes first? I mean, how do you know?
So
do
I'll bring us back from whatever nuts and bolts are needed.
Yeah.
And then normally throw to Husey. And the whole idea of radio is to use a rugby league, parlance, is to hit people on the burst. So
you're touching the ball more often.
Well, in those moments, so like a hooker. So
Yep.
the best way to describe me is like a hooker.
Dummy half.
Yep, dummy half. So get it, fling
So you
it,
touch the ball more often.
but less sort of. But they do the majority of the sort of contents. The word you'd probably use.
Yeah, the running.
Yeah, there you go. So then it'll wander back to me. So mostly mechanical are the things I do.
Yeah, so you're
in this show.
so do you find yourself you have to bring them back onto the pitch. So
Yeah, so you kind of have to. I need to know the future just in a technical radio sense.
Yep.
I need to know what time it is. How long has this been going? I'll do a little joke here. Okay, then I need to know what's coming up next. Do we need this? Do we need that? It's that sort of thing.
I used to do the Triple M show like every morning, like a few years ago when
With Maddie?
when Maddie was on there. And
Yeah.
it was like I used to get astonished about how sort of bouncing around the joint all the time.
Yes.
And I used to think, so what a nightmare it would be here to try and host it.
Yeah.
And because they're all big personalities, MG, Matt, and Gussie.
I think it's more that you just have like, you kind of, you're just sort of listening, and you're just listening for cues, and you're listening for things that might help. And that's the job. And you find it after a while is, it's so ingrained in me that I could go into I back myself to go into any radio studio at any point. I'd listen to 2 minutes of whatever it is, or one break before, and I go, okay, no worries, I know how this works. And then go in there and contribute in that way if I had to. Because you hear straight away, like even when I was listening to your podcast, I'm picking up on, okay, that's the sort of how their sentences finish. That's sort of the areas that they like. Oh, that will make them uncomfortable if I ask that. That would sort of, okay, that's sort of things he likes to talk about. Those are the things they don't like. So I can hear that instantly and know what, and that's why it drives me crazy when podcasters go to radio, and I can hear the edits. I can hear how much they've had to do to make this. It's a different discipline, and to make it sound like it can go to air.
Where's the interaction, or where's the intersection between podcasting for the future and radio for the future? So
I'm so glad you asked, because I give this more thought than most things. And I think, because I do podcasts as well, I've done them for a long time, et cetera, et cetera. I listen to them nonstop. I've always got something in my ear. Just a quick question. What speed do you listen to things on?
When I do.
What do you mean when you do?
When I do.
So what are some of the shows you like to listen to?
I mostly just listen to people like Joe Rogan or Huberman, all the science shows, Peter Attia.
Right. Anything else?
No.
What about audiobooks?
Sometimes if I'm on a plane, but generally speaking, I'm just too busy.
Hmm.
I do a lot of reading though.
Oh, good.
I read a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm audio. I love audio. Audio is I find it so much easier to take in information from.
I'm a visual, so.
Oh, there you go. That's interesting. Okay, because I need to. If I hear it, I'm good.
But where do you see the intersection? Like, because I mean, what's the future of the two? I mean, I'm not saying that one will go away, but I think both will coexist.
I think that I'm looking at what's happening in television as well, and we reached peak drama last year. 600 scripted shows. No one can listen. No one can watch all those. And now we're seeing the contraction of it. And we're also seeing the thing that no one ever mentions that is the biggest driver of all this is YouTube. YouTube is, by some distance, I believe, the biggest, take away mechanical things and what if you're looking at the internet as a retail product and a front-facing sort of media product, YouTube is so far ahead of everything else that's ever happened that matters. It's not even close to being up for grabs. And so I personally...
Second biggest search engine in the world, outside of Google.
Yeah, that's everything. And so I personally think that the media companies that are going to get it right are the companies that give up on this notion that broadcast radio, as we know it, FM, AM, and DAB, and podcasts are somehow separate versions of the same beast. They're not. If you want to have podcasts that work as radio programs, that's fine. But you need to have somebody or some way of getting those people to understand the difference it is that it takes to do that discipline in that way. You definitely also need the other way around. If you do radio, and that's just what you do, it has to remain relevant and of the day in a breakfast and a drive sense if you want it to have relevance in that way. And the other thing I'd say is that I think that male audiences now, locally,
You mean in Australia?
in Australia, are not, there's not, we got a lot, I asked you what you listened to, you named everything overseas. I feel as though so much of the media that my mates and friends, colleagues and stuff like that, I always ask them, I barely ever get them, they barely ever mention anything local. And I think that the big gap in the big sort of area, and I know you're not allowed to even say the word male audience anymore, but it is.
On my show, you can say that.
Well, I'm sorry, but yeah, it is. Look, Bill Simmons told us 5 years ago. He said it. He left ESPN. He started The Ringer, and Spotify paid him however many $100 million to go over there and build what he built over there. It was probably, I looked at it because I was, such a huge fan, such much respect for what he's done. It was probably 8 people talking to each other when it was, Grantland, and then before he started The Ringer, the whole network, if you really boiled it down. And they built this enormous area, but it feels small. The shows feel intimate while having this massive reach on relevant topics. And that's how they become personalities, Mark. It's all just Bill's friends. And that's why the other day everyone, went global when he said that Harry and Meghan were grifters. I could not tell you how much I knew exactly what he meant. He was fucking offended that they had wandered in off the back of nothing, a whinge fest 2022, and were taking all this money from Spotify to not deliver anything. Not only were they not delivering anything that was sort of in terms of volume, they did 12 podcasts in 2.5 years, and he didn't do any. But they were also sucking the life out of this. I know it's a massive company, Spotify, but in his heart, you could feel it. He was offended by the fact that he spends all his time trying to think, what's going to be relevant for my audience? What are they going to like? Who can I get? What am I interested in? His beam, like you were talking before, his observational beam for particularly what male audiences globally like is second to none. And I personally feel that that's the next big, it's not an iteration, but that's the next big moment that if someone, somewhere, somehow, something can find that group or whatever it is, or find a way of merging, whatever you want to call it, that is the next big thing for me. And personally, that's what I think.
And outside of Today FM, do you drift as opposed to grift, but drift into podcast yourself?
Yeah. Oh, do I do some?
Yeah.
So I do a comedy one called Team Effort with Tony Martin and some other which I've done for a long time.
And what's that? Give me
It's a
flashcard
fake
on that.
life lessons podcast, and it's basically an excuse for me to one of my oldest. The person who gave me my first job in radio was Tony Martin, and I just want to hang out with him. So we get him, me, another comedian, and then somebody else, and we
Talk shit.
We do, but it always ends up being the same thing. I hate people going, when I hear a podcast start like this, hey everyone, what have you been doing? Oh my God, I have the craziest week. I know we're going to get to it, but it's just been so great. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Do you understand how many podcasts there are out there?
Yeah.
Do you understand how quickly and
Stop killing me.
You're fucking killing me.
Yeah.
Get to the fucking point. So
I mean, I hear it on science shows. It sounds ridiculous, but
Mate.
science shows do it.
okay. Someone sent me a vegan workout podcast the other day, right? And I said, I'll give it a go. This dude spent the first 12 minutes, because I counted and I was angry, talking about how I just think, I was thinking the other day it would be amazing if somebody just filmed me the whole day. Don't you think it would be amazing if there was just a camera crew following me? And then his co-host is like, I think that would be amazing. And I'm like, guys, you are talking about a camera crew filming you, doing a podcast about a camera crew filming you. This is the worst fucking content idea of all time. This is staggeringly bad. And I almost messaged them. I would never do this, but Mark, I was so incensed. But I was like, let it go. That's nothing to do with you. But that kills me. Get to the point, which you do.
Do you think that you're intellectually impatient?
Yeah.
Explain that. What do you mean? Because I have a view on intellectual impatience. It's very closely aligned to intellectual arrogance.
No.
What do you think you mean by intellectually impatient?
I just want to get to the point as quickly as possible. That's all I want.
Is it? And
that's
very radio, though.
Yes, I dream of it.
That's very 3 minutes. That's
Yes.
Because my next question to you is, how's your attention span?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can attend to something for a long time.
End of time.
Yeah.
I can go for 1 second or till the end of time.
Your own, something you're interested in, or was something someone else is interested in?
Something someone else is interested in.
But what about these dudes who are boring
I would
the
stop
life out
them.
of you?
If I was there,
Yeah.
I would say, that's a terrible idea. Now, let's talk vegan workout.
You pull them back into this
Yes.
to the point.
That's
and
fine.
Which is that's probably what you do every day with Erin and Husey too.
Yes, much like that. Yes.
So you're basically the dummy half, and you're tapping whoever's playing the ball. Play the fucking ball. Hurry up.
Right, that's right.
And I want to get out this way.
We've got to get on the front foot here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's
Yes,
you.
That's exactly right.
That's your personality. So would you say you're more a convergent thinker or a divergent thinker? Are you more as a result of that, therefore I'm thinking like one-on-one's always going to eat a fucking two and that's it? Or are you divergently thinking like Picasso, since we did raise him earlier on, thinking about how many shapes can I make out of these paper clips?
Right. So funny you should mention that. On my wall is
On your wall.
a print.
A wall?
On my wall at home.
Okay.
I've never been, this is the first time anyone's ever struggled with my accent.
No, it is, I wasn't sure.
On my wall, double L, I have my favorite Picasso, which is the charcoal and then into watercolor of Don Quixote.
Yeah, the original, of course.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I got it cheap in a crypto auction. Yeah, and for exactly that reason, I cannot stress how much I love I got an art history degree, which is intensely dull, and I accept that. So I cannot express how much I love the economy of lines with the result that has. And that's why it's massive. It's on my wall. And I got that. And I've got the Matisse, not the Matisse. The Matisse, the Henri Matisse, the blue one of the woman, reclining, because that's a similar sort of idea. Because he's French, he's got to do, nude women. So, but the economy of lines of that Picasso is everything to me.
Yeah, and so art history, that's actually pretty cool art history. It's hard to get a job from it, but like art history is, no, but it's a pretty cool thing to study or be a student of.
It was great.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Well, what did that teach you about the way to think?
So Picasso is sort of becoming a bit of a theme, but it's the easiest one for people to get their head around. If anyone's ever trying to get hold of art history, I always just say, just do the following. Google image Picasso in order. And all you have to do is watch Picasso's development from, okay, let's learn the basics of painting. Right, now let's do very, very basic landscapes. Hang on a sec. What if I moved some of these? Would you still be able to understand what I meant? And then what if I moved some of these lines again? You can understand what I felt. And then we get into the period that most people know, which is like, look at the style that this bringing to the table, and look at the emotion, but also the sort of distance that he's bringing. People are confused by it because they sort of understand it, but they at the same time they know that it's not a perfect representation, and that's what I love. That's the best way for people to get into it because they go, oh, I see what he's done. He's got the basics down. He's done exactly what he needed to fundamentally, and now he's found his own way.
But do you think that's because Picasso and others, many others, same in music, in terms of composers, or people reinterpreting other compositions. But do you think that's because the individual is, and I said arrogant before, intellectually impatient and therefore needs to play around with things, or are they just manipulating us to the space they want us to be?
Probably that. Probably the second one. I think they
want to see if they can move us.
I think so. I think they kind of. I mean, a lot of them just wanted to make the other thing that people forget with a lot of these painters is a lot of them just literally wanted to eat. Like there was a lot of
but when they get good though
and differentiate. A lot of them realized, hang on, if I can differentiate here, then not only will I eat, but I can get a bit of a name for myself.
And I've got your imagination where I want it.
That's right. And now you're waiting for my next release. You know, along that, the term eye line is because the eye line of galleries was the most prized spot to be in when they had, salon, exhibitions.
Like the front of the liquor store if you're putting out a new packet of beer. It is.
That is so true.
So
well, in supermarkets, anyone who doesn't think they understand ancient art history, just go to a supermarket and see what's at your eye line.
Correct.
That's art history.
That's at its most fundamental level, most rudimentary level. So aren't they just dummy halves by some other name?
Oh.
They're saying, I'm going to go left sometimes. But you think I'm going to go left, I'm going to throw to right. And we see it. We saw it last night in the State of Origin. We saw someone pointing to the right and then straight to the left. Is that you?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe that's
You're not the artist, but is that you?
No, maybe, yeah. And I'm getting back to comedy, I always say that I like comedy as a team sport. One of the reasons I've never become a stand-up is one, I've got too much respect for it, and I didn't have it in me to do it. I didn't think early on, and so that's why I gravitated towards improvising. And then that's why I love radio, and that's why, like having been paying attention as a team sport. Thank God you're here, another show I was on and other shows that I've been on and radio. I like comedy as a team sport. I like setting people up and seeing them, launch over the fence. Get a good gag in myself, get a laugh, but I love seeing other people that I'm playing with get laughs and do well, and so that we all do well collectively. And that is, I've always said that. That's why I like, I've made a couple of little movies and, whenever I've been involved in TV shows or whatever, I love comedy as a team sport. And it's sort of what you pick up on. I love being able to put people into a gap. That's why I say all the time, I love putting people into a gap comedically that they can run through. I enjoy that.
It's funny when people say team sports. I don't want to appear to be cynical, but I am. I think to myself, it's a good sounding word. And it's all very kumbaya and, holding hands and shit like that. But I actually find some people who are best in a team and the ones who captain the team, the ones who direct the team, are also, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but very selfish. Because they like being in a team sport because they actually want the team to do what they want to do. You've got to have someone to direct the team. A bit like, the New South Wales State of Origin team. The way I said, we don't have anyone directing our team.
No.
In a bigger sense.
You also don't have an idea. I've got to remember I'm a Queensland supporter.
Yeah.
New South Wales State of Origin team doesn't serve an idea.
Yeah, they don't serve an idea, and they don't have anyone handing them that idea either.
No, that's right.
They need to have the idea handed to them,
Exactly
and they
right.
need to engage with it and adopt it.
That is right.
So we don't have anybody manipulating the idea and manipulating everybody's understanding of the fact that they've adopted the idea or thought about the idea themselves.
So when I was doing radio in
that's
Brisbane.
you.
That's right, I hope so. So when I was radio in Brisbane, I'll never forget it, we went to my mate Marto and I were in Triple M, and we went to Origin. We went to the Queensland hotel to interview all the players. And I remember so clearly, because, I obviously loved these guys as a kid and got to know a few of them now. And I remember walking in and going, and straight away it was like, oh, this is exactly how I thought that this played out. The idea was so strong. Good news. Alan Lang is here, just chatting to someone in the corner. Geez, look at that. Look at Nate Miles. He's over there having a chat with Gordy. Look at that. That's a bit of fun. But they weren't doing it, Mark, in a way of like, look at us, we've got all these legends hanging around. It wasn't like that. There was an idea that they were serving and you could feel the players just relaxing. They were laughing, just mucking around, laughing. Look, win, lose or draw. Sometimes they lose, sometimes they win, whatever. The idea was so clear and was so simple. And that's why I'm a big football. Soccer is my main sport. I'm my main football. And you can start to tell now, Mark, the big battle that's taking place in world soccer is the teams that are traditionally formed around an idea versus now the teams that are built around nation-state wealth, and what is going to happen as those two things drift further and further apart from each other. And so Manchester United and Manchester City are the simplest example for people, binary example people understand. Manchester City may never lose again. They have the best coach. They have the best scouts. They have the best financial backing. They can just pick up, if there's a player up for grabs, it's there. It's up to them to say no if anyone else wants to get hold of them. Versus Manchester United that has absentee owners that are treating it like a bank. And they realised, and I think, I've heard Manchester United fans say this and journalists about it, they're sort of realising that it was never an idea. It was actually just Alex Ferguson, whose book is great, like what you said. Yeah, he's in a team sport, but he's in charge. The idea was not that. We had one bloke who had a personality strong enough to say, this is the way we do things, and that is the way things are going to get done.
So he was the team.
He was the team. And so this whole idea that they were some sort of, it's sort of been washed away a little bit. This is them saying that. I'm like, that's so interesting because this is exactly what you're talking about.
And I think it happens in every team environment. I mean, I don't give a fuck when anybody says, they say, oh, well, we're a team and, there's no I in team. Bullshit. There is an I in team. It could be either the idea. In other words, we've got something that we all understand and we all pledge towards.
Yes.
Like we're Queenslanders, we're playing for Queensland.
Yes.
We're playing for every person in Queensland.
Yes. And they're very keen on that, and they're very keen on going around, and people feel that and they know that. It's not that they feel it, they know it.
Because I thought about the other night, I just don't see how, I don't know, but I don't know what the reason is, but I don't see how we could actually take that and apply it to New South Wales. I'm playing for everyone in New South Wales. I don't know. It just doesn't seem to work. I don't
Well, I
understand
think
why
you
it
would.
doesn't.
I can see how you could argue that, particularly the way the contracts work in the NRL as well. It's getting harder and harder to even say that you represent a club.
Yeah,
it's like soccer. It's so much harder now for a player to, and most of those guys are, end up sort of in New South Wales colours. So I think that links to it. I think that has an effect on it. I think the contract system of the NRL affects the way that New South Wales ends up being constructed.
And coached.
And coached.
And all the people that hang off the side of it as well.
Yes.
I mean, it's a really difficult thing, and everybody sort of wants to blame Freddie, but I think it's a bigger mountain than Freddie can climb.
No, yeah.
I mean, I think it's more, there's more institutionalized problems that Freddie has to overcome than just be a coach like Slater is. I just think it's much harder.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not making excuses for Fiddler.
No, I know, but I know what you mean.
But there's an issue.
And if you know Freddie, you know that, no one cares more about the players and New South Wales and the idea of it than Freddie. Freddie cares incredibly deeply, and does his absolute level best. But you're right, there's something else they're up against.
There's a massive barrier. I want to talk to you about your wife. You married or partners? Or what is
I'm married to Tiffany Hall and have been since insert wedding date here.
Okay. Well, what was the impact of? What's the impact of your relationship with her on you?
That's I don't know. No one's ever asked me that. And what would be on me? It's a good question.
Wow, I got you stumped.
You do? Well, I've never been asked that before. On me, impact on me. Well, she's a very fit person, so I think that helped to, keep me fit. And
Or did you admire her fitness?
yeah, well, I met her when she was a gladiator,
Yeah.
And it was
But
like,
do you admire her fitness relative to your fitness?
oh God, yeah, because she has a lifetime. She's a 6-dan black belt in Taekwondo. Her family, her father is 66 and just got his 9th Dan black belt in Korea. Flew over there, did the test, the whole thing in Korean. Like, you know what I mean? They mean it.
That's full on, yeah.
They ain't mucking around. They mean it. And I love that about their family, the discipline, the achievement. I love watching, a man of his age achieving something physically, training for it for 3 months. I love that. And she's got that in her as well. And she's a very resilient person, my wife.
Which means what? You mean mentally or physically?
Both, because she was indestructible, and then she had a series of injuries all in a row, and she had 2 children. And I've watched her do something interesting, which is not go internal. She's got the TXO Life, which is her wonderful online program. She leans out into the people who are doing her program and in her community to sort of support each other in a very generous way, and is very honest with her feelings and where she's at with people, which is not my go at all. And I'm always sort of very much in awe of the way that she can give over that way to people that are essentially strangers, but people that she now, and the response that she gets back from them. People respond to my wife on a very emotional level.
Is that like an honesty though?
It is an honesty, but I'm an honest person as well. But I'm an honest person, I think, in like people respond to me intellectually, which is the way I like it.
But you're in control of that.
Well, yeah.
Because you like to be in control of it. That's what the dummy half does.
That's right.
But
you're the same. I can tell you're the same. That's why this is fun.
Maybe today I am, because I could be acting, but
no, you're not. You know why? Because when you were with Matt Nable, which was a fascinating chat, right? And
I could have been acting then too. But
no, you weren't, because I think it's funny how much you get to know someone listening to them, their side of the. I was very focused on your side of all the shows I listened to, and I know you from your media presence over the journey, right? And so, et cetera, right? And you're the Mark Bouris I was exactly hoping for when I got here today, which was slightly guarded, mildly gruff, interested but only to a point. That is exactly the Mark Bouris that I want, and it is good fun, and I'm enjoying it. But at the same time, your curiosity has to be earned, and that is good fun. But that's what I'm saying. I'm responding to that intellectually, but that means I like you. That's making me like you, right?
I feel better. Yeah, but thank you. But can we go? Let's go back to you, Mrs. Like, because So you liked her resilience, physical and mental. You liked her, I guess, generosity of spirit, her honesty in relation to her business in particular.
Yeah.
You liked her commitment too, I think.
Yeah.
Especially to physical health.
No, more so just that she is a sort of. It's so cliched to say my wife's a very loving person, but maybe it's a cliche for a reason. Do you know? And that's a good thing. Whereas I'm not. Mark, I'm not the type of person that's going to wallow in things, if you know what I mean. And she isn't either, but she's good at kind of, for anyone, she has this funny thing, Mark, where I can start talking to someone and I will very quickly think about, they'll say something and I'll think, I can tell that means something to them. I can just tell, as you can. And I go, great, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm good, because I'll learn something from them. This will be great. Whereas my wife, we'll go out to the shops. I'll turn around as a woman crying, holding her hands. I go, what was that about? She go, I don't know. I just went up to her and we were talking about the shopping, and before I know it, she's telling me her life story. That's my wife. She screams empathy from a distance, and her mother has a similar sort of effect on people. Whereas they just, everywhere they go, people are just telling them their life story like they've known them 1,000 years. It's incredible.
So what do you borrow from that?
Nothing.
That personality?
Nothing.
Do you borrow? It's just something you like to have around, so to speak.
Yeah.
I know
what you mean. No, I don't. Yeah. I still.
Do you borrow anything and borrow any of those traits?
No, I still like to
live myself
and do and find people, find their likes, find the intellectually, find that thing, and get into what's making them tick and what they like. I've got this great way of getting to know people. This is gold. So, Mark Bouris, what were your last 3 YouTube searches?
I'd have to go back and check. I don't know.
Is it on that iPad?
No, it's not on this iPad, unfortunately. It could be probably the last 3 YouTubes something about BJJ, wrestling.
Are you doing BJJ?
Yeah, I've been doing it for years, yeah.
Aha. You'd like my friend Bouris, the Australian champion. So, all right, we can get in touch. So, you and Mark Zuckerberg could have a bout. That'd be good fun. That's good content.
That would be fun. I'd like to wrestle him. That'd be good.
Okay, so with that BJJ, yep.
Yeah, but no, probably my last 3 would have been on Big
All
Ginger.
about the same.
Yeah, well, I'll probably
Technique, highlights, and
no, but specifics. No specifics. I'll be asking things like, how to get out of a particular position. Like, so
Yeah, right.
It would have been something like, just like going back to basics, how to get out of mount.
Great. Yep, easy.
What are the 3 ways to get out of mount position?
Awesome.
Yep.
See, everything I need to know is in that.
Well, but probably also though, I do remember now you asked me because I had to get the back of my head working, and had to look backwards. And probably the thing I probably checked it on YouTube most recently was something on deep learning models and how deep learning models are best calculated.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And
I did. I looked it up, and I looked it up in particular. I looked at how to build a deep learning model for a broad database on physical physical markers, physical biomarkers.
Aha. And
I was just trying to work out how I can make money out of it.
see, we got there. We're home. We've only done 2. We've only done 2, and we are home. We could talk to the end. We can now. You and I could now talk till the end of time.
Can I ask you a question then?
Of course, you can.
So
It's your show.
yeah. So let me ask you a question. If you had to describe in order of preference your 3 favorite animals.
Ooh. So 3, 2, 1 or 1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3. Favorite one first.
No.
second
3, 2,
favorite.
1. In radio you do 3, 2, 1 because you want the listeners sticking around to 1.
You can do the last one.
3, 2, 1.
You can do it in your own order.
Top of my head, 3, blue whale. It just anything that moves at that distance and pace, but also with a slowness. I find fascinating. It's hard, and they're hard to draw. And 2, I like the cheetah because when I found out that all 4 paws went off the ground as they ran, it turned it into a sort of a jump, and I thought that's fascinating because it's, and the way they turn with the back of their hips. So mechanically, I thought that was really interesting. And number 1 is the bald eagle because the bald eagle was the symbol of Rome, SPQR, and then and now the America's adopted it, and it's got the best look. When it sits up and looks to the side. So aesthetically, it's the best looking eagle. The others are a bit murky, and I like its precision, just loitering around in the air, and then boom, I'll take that rabbit, thanks.
Yeah. So, do you think of it in any of those? So I'll take them reverse order, my order. So,
what are yours?
So the bald eagle, like in terms of the characteristics you described. Do you think there's any relationship between those characteristics and a little bit how you present yourself, not in a physical way, but how you present yourself?
In what way?
Well, you just said he's looks great, a good observer, the way he moves his head.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Honestly, I've never thought about it, but maybe, yeah. Maybe, obviously, I'm drawn to it probably for that reason. Yeah, that makes sense.
How you would like to present yourself?
I don't know if I ever present myself exactly the way I'd like to. I think that more that I just get in situations that I'm enjoying and then don't worry about it as much.
But just
I'll listen back to this and be like, God, you're annoying. Shut the fuck up. But
me?
Me. No, you're great. I'll think, you should have asked Mark more questions. That's what I'll say to myself when I listen back.
And the what was the second? What was number 2? Did you pick
Cheetah.
Cheetah. Do you think a cheetah would be something that the characteristics of which you described to me at least, its ability to do something quite fantastic?
No, the quickness of it, the agility of it.
It gives it speed.
Yeah, the agility.
By a mechanical sense, it gives it a great deal of speed.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something that you would like to be?
No, I like to be mentally dexterous.
No, but it can be in a mental sense.
Oh yeah,
it doesn't have to be in a physical way.
No, 100%. Yeah, mental dexterity is something that I prize. And when I hear, sometimes, Mark, I'll be listening to an audio book and someone will have a phrase, like Chuck Klosterman's book about the 90s. He's a culture writer. Sometimes I'll hear a phrase that he's got or a joke. Sometimes I'll hear a joke that someone's come up with and I'll just stop. I'll physically just stop and just be like, that's the stuff, and get a bolt of energy from it, a bolt of lightning of energy from it. And that's the kind of when you stop. So my mental dexterity, and then something will just stop you in your tracks. And it happened on my show, have been paying attention. Sometimes we're just thrilled by it. That's what I love.
So you can apply, that cheetah's tremendous biomechanical ability to to how a person would like to be able to think themselves. You'd like to be able to cover more distance mentally than anybody
exactly
else.
right.
And do you think? Well, and what did you say about the blue whale again? What was
It's just it's so massive. So the idea that it actually moves is quite incredible. But the sort of slowness of it, I find incredible. And the idea that it has to find so many tons of plankton a day. Like imagine the pressure when you.
What would you put that down? Would you call that efficiency, or would you call that resourceful?
Yeah, I would call that work rate. I would call that a dedication to, like a Sisyphus. Every time the blue whale is conscious, it goes, "Oh, I need 3 tons of plankton today," and it just methodically goes through and will not be deterred.
Do you think that's who you are?
What do you mean? Maybe. Oh yeah. Oh yes. God yeah. Yeah. I can. No worries. I can gut it out. No dramas.
So if I do it all in reverse, so you're methodical, work hard, know your job, and have no problem with it. I mean, you might take a breath, but you think I've got to keep feeding, so I work hard. I'd love to be more mentally dexterous and have more mental dexterity, which is why I live my life this way and why intellectually I engage this way. And I'm always trying to work my way around things to learn more stuff and to see how people's sweet spots. And finally, but I present myself in a different way. I present myself, I'm the eagle.
Maybe. Yeah, that does make sense. Is that a model of some sort?
It's well known. It's a well known psychological model. Yeah.
Whose is it?
It doesn't matter, but it's in reverse.
Is it yours?
It's one that I've studied for a long time. Yeah, but I have borrowed it. I have borrowed most of the notions from other people. Yeah, because I used to read a lot of psychology books, lots.
Why did you stop?
I just got bored. I mean, I read enough. I now read more chemistry books and physics books, but I'm more interested in that. But these days, then those days, this is 25 years ago, but I remembered that model and I thought to myself, I just wonder where it works with someone like you, because you're a little dangerous because you move around a bit faster and you're also suspicious of the reason for the questions. So you danced a bit, but I got you. So, but no, I got to you. I didn't mean it in a bad way.
I know exactly
I got
what you
to
meant.
find out what I wanted to find out.
I know exactly what you meant.
And it's funny how it usually works for most people.
That's a good one.
Yeah. But you do it in order of usually the first one is how they present themselves. The first animal they pick. Second animal they pick. You got to get into the characteristics. You got to find out what the characteristics. Second animal is the one they want to be. And the third animal is who they are.
Oh, that's interesting.
And because we tend to promote in our own mind.
Gotcha.
How we present ourselves. How we would really present ourselves.
Right.
Where we would like to be.
Gotcha.
And we know where we are. We know where we are.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and
that's really good.
Yeah, it's quite a good party trick.
Have yours changed?
Not really. No, I'm probably still the same. Just an old version, but yeah, I probably feel probably pretty much the same today. Yeah.
Really?
So yeah, and in fact, eagle is the one I put as number one. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Same one, same type.
Yeah, eagle is not necessarily a bald eagle or the American eagle, whatever. They're just eagles generally because they tend to be very good at seeing everything because their eyesight's better than just about every other animal, and they have this ability to based on what they see to hover and then just at speed take what they need to take.
Yeah,
and then that's a presentation process for me. I mean, I do present myself a little bit that way, particularly in business because it's a very powerful position to be in if you're in business.
You're right.
And my second one is usually some sort of cat.
Same as me.
Yeah,
Big
but
cats?
not necessarily for. Yours is specifically like a cheetah, and mental acuity fits right into that.
Right.
Because be able to cover greater ground intellectually.
Yeah.
Than most. Mine is any type of cat, more because of their ability to stalk a prey and
gotcha. Yeah, gotcha.
Take what they need.
Yeah.
And they're
so that's 2 stalking animals.
Yeah, and my third one I love gorillas, and not because of maybe what most people think, but gorillas are just very good nurturing. They're very good at nurturing.
If you asked people to do a list of gorillas' main attributes, nurturing wouldn't be in the top 50.
That's why you get them to describe why they like that particular animal.
I wouldn't have. I would see that because you say gorilla straight away. Nurturing is not where people go.
They think of something beating its chest, I guess, and aggressive and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but it's the nurturing. It's the part I like about them.
Fascinating.
They're very good with that.
Yeah,
and they're sort of not in the you don't see them.
No, you do not.
They hide.
They're all stalkers, yours.
Yeah. Well, the last one's he's a hider. Well, he's vegetarian.
He's a vegetarian,
but I'm not. Well, yeah. So now I find that interesting to ask people. I haven't asked that of somebody for a long time. So
you're going to bring it back?
I should. I should ask. That should be my standard 3 questions.
I
But
like
the problem is everyone who listens to this who comes on my show, then if they do any research, they'll
do people normally do
they'll
research?
preempt it. Some do, yeah, some do. It's amazing the number of people who listen to my show.
I was going to say.
I'm only joking. Actually, I should get a few more comedians on. One of my observations about comedians.
I don't think in your normal life that you would spend any time with comedians.
Well,
but I think you would enjoy it more than you would allow yourself to.
Well, one of the things I've noticed about comedians, like someone like Julia Morris, yeah, she's like so funny all the time, just always mucking around, and but she has a serious side. But she's comedic all the time. She's just sort of laughing at things and herself all the time. She always finds the funny side of things and laughs at herself. Particularly these days because she's doing much better than she did in the days before she won the show. When she was in the US, it was tough times for her and Dan.
Yeah.
But then you get someone like Vince Sorrenti. Vince is nothing like what he is. He's
Vince Sorrenti is a character.
Totally. He's a total performance on stage.
Yeah. Vince Sorrenti.
Get him on stage.
Vince Sorrenti is a character.
100%. Like he's not a funny dude. Well, he's
he's funny, but
wrong
what I mean by that was not a criticism in any way. I love Vince. So Vince Sorrenti is a character that he plays on stage. Yeah. Vince Sorrenti in capitals, and then there's Vince Sorrenti in lowercase.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like he's so different. And when we cast him for one of the shows, so we generally speaking, we always cast a comedian in each show, in each series because they give you good fill-ins.
That's
when there's a bit of a dull period.
Because they're bored.
They'll give it to you.
They're bored.
And they don't, you don't have to ask them, they just naturally
we're bored.
And we put Vince in and Vince is not naturally like that.
No, you need to know who is, there's a great bit in a Puff Daddy song where he says, it's easy to be Puff. What do I do when the club lights come on? It's easy to be Puff, but it's harder to be Sean. Yeah, and it's a great encapsulation of every performer in that has a character that they play.
Do people expect that of you?
Nah, I don't reckon. I reckon they get pretty quickly. They kind of go, I make jokes all the time around wherever, but I reckon they get pretty quickly. Because I can't be asked trying to impress people by being funny the whole time. I'd rather just ask them questions about themselves and learn something and, move my head left and right. Like I found out a dad from school the other day was an engineer at Ford. Fucking beautiful. Let's talk about that.
But is it because it's a good way to deal with your boredom?
Nah, it's more. I'm never bored. So you can't be bored. The excuse for being bored was stopped the day they turned YouTube on, or the day they turned.
No, I'm talking to someone though. I know you got all other things you go and do.
No, I won't be bored. I think that's really arrogant and self-aggrandizing to think. If you can't find something to talk about with someone, that's on you, because every person is fascinating in some way, and that's on you if you can't find something to have a laugh about, to muck around about. Husey always says, and he's right, life is funny, and that's what the comedian gives you. The comedian in me gives me the ability to look around and go, oh, that's funny, or that's funny, or that's funny. But then also, oh, that's interesting, that's interesting, that's interesting. And if you can't do that, then that's on you.
Are you ever hard on yourself?
Yeah, of course. Everybody is.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Some people can't be hard on themselves, but because I want to go back to your wife, given that she's, her character has given you lots of, great things to see.
Yeah.
What have you adopted from that then? Like in terms of when you, for example, when you stopped drinking, were you married then?
No. I was single for a while and then met my wife. I think.
Because that's just to stop drinking.
Yeah.
Is when you're a young man, especially, it's sort of being hard on yourself. It's like, I don't mean in a tough way, but you give yourself a slap. Come on, get on with it.
Yeah, fair enough. I think yes. It was. I think it was hard on myself on that. Like, could you and I go right now and have one drink? Of course we could, right? But it's not worth it for, like, it's just not worth it, because it's like, well, that's over. That's the way I see it. That's over.
It was a past era.
Yeah, it's over.
So what have you, therefore, in relation to things you've observed in your wife, what have you adopted from that then?
I think I've adopted from her is I I actually have learnt from her about that, how people just tell her life story the whole time. I think radio and being with Tiff has helped me listen well, I hope. That's the thing. Those are a big thing. I know I'm crapping on right now, but I much prefer to listen.
And how many children do you have?
I have 2 children. I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Okay, so with your kids, do you and your wife, do you sort of try to, you said earlier, we do what we see as opposed to do what we're told.
Mm.
Do you try to, not influence, it's probably, influence them with in terms of their curiosity, being curious?
I refuse to ever say to my son, who's obviously 5, I don't know. That is not a word that he will hear from me. So if which he does all the time, so he says to me, Dad, what was ancient Rome like? I go, no dramas. We are going to find out, and we will read a book about it. And then he's into Lego, and so we'll watch a Lego. I have this thing with him, right? All he wants to do in life, I don't know how he knows about it, is watch Lego on YouTube, right? And I say, you can only, because he doesn't watch much TV at all. So I say, okay, we can watch Lego stop motion animation that people have made. However, we will only be watching recreations of accurate historical battles. So if he wants to watch, if he wants to have some fun, I go, that's fine. But we are watching the Romans' invasion of Egypt as done by Lego.
So Lego makes this sort of...
people make it.
Makes
right?
a battlefield.
Yeah, they make it.
Yeah,
and so then
not
we'll
Lego, but
people do.
Yeah.
And so then he goes, all right. So then he likes, now the eagle thing. So I go, see those letters, SPQR? Yeah, what do they stand for? Senate Populus Quo Romanus. Okay, no worries. What did that mean, Daddy? Well, that means the people, the Senate, the thing like that. And see this Roma, this soccer team Roma? Yes, Daddy. Well, see how they're wearing it at the moment? Yeah, that's because Rome now is linked to ancient Rome. Never will he hear I don't know from me. Ever. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is that he's interested in. I will chase it until the end of time.
And do you, is he at school? 5?
Yeah.
He would be at school now.
Yeah.
It's his first kindergarten.
Yeah.
Actually, I just spent the morning prior to coming to see you with my grandson, who's also in kindergarten.
Wow.
And I had to go to his school, and he had to show me his school garden and take me through all the vegetables and
perfect,
all that sort of stuff. But by the way, he finds, I can see all the other kids think it's really exciting, but I have a good vegetable garden, and when he comes to my house, I take him through my vegetable garden. And I get him to participate in my vegetable garden. Fantastic. He already knows it all.
Good.
Because I love vegetables in gardens.
Yeah, good.
I'm getting a bit off the track here.
No,
No. I just want to go back to you because we're going to run out of time.
Yeah.
So, in terms of your fitness, I mean, I note that you are into fitness.
Yeah.
So just take me through it. What does that mean? Why? What's the
train
deal?
every day, almost every day, and it's like you. I imagine with BJJ, it is the place I go when I don't want to think. And I don't have to talk and I don't have to do anything. I put my headphones in and I go and work out, and it's strenuous, but it's not mentally strenuous. It's physically strenuous. And that is a release that everybody knows that, there's a reason Socrates was ripped, but it just is a different feeling of exertion, and I love it.
And what do you do? Like, what's the regime? Tell me the regime.
So at the moment, I had this really annoying injury in my neck, which meant that it put me back, and I got a bowel infection in Bali, which meant for the little while I was down and out, and I was very upset about it. But so I'll do. I can't run because I'm tall, and I just get sore knees from it. I hate running. So I'll do weight training probably 3-4 times a week, and then some the boxing's back now that my neck's good, and that's it. And then the other times I'll walk apart from that, walk and listen.
And is your regime an actual strategy, or it's a...
Yeah, I change as I go. So I'll go at the moment. So at the moment, because I'm coming back, I came back from this injury, and I'm actually bringing out over the journey. I've teamed up with a company to come up with the best damn supplement / powder / meal replacement for men in their 40s and any time that anyone has ever seen. And I've been spending ages on it, and I'm taking it really seriously, and I can't wait for it to come out. It's the best. And so then now I'm doing much more volume. So it's much more higher volume, but make sure it's slow so that you're not, trying to lift the stack over your head in your 40s and you're going to break your back. So that's
or fuck your shoulder up.
Exactly right. So I've been through that. So that is exactly what I'm doing at the moment. So I'm really concentrating on making sure that this is something that I can say to people, do this and believe it. So I'm my own guinea pig. So I don't claim to know everything. I'm not trying to do that, but this I know is good. That's it.
And it's so you have like strategies around it, but what's the ultimate outcome? I mean, is it to?
It's honestly, Mark. It's on at this point. It's honestly, I look at like my father-in-law, 65, going for his,
9th Dan black belt.
yeah,
Well,
yourself.
6th black belt.
Yeah,
What was
ninth, he's doing his 9th Dan, like yourself doing BJJ. Like honestly, I look ahead at guys who are training, and I see I know this sounds ridiculous, but obviously I want to be strong and, not have, I don't want to blow out whatever and be unhealthy. Honestly, I just like the feeling of feeling strong. I just like it.
Yeah. Well, so because, I mean, when I say strategy, I mean, because I just take, because you're probably too young for this to even think this way now, but I think that my strategy is that when I get to a certain age, beyond where I am now, I want to be able to bend down and pick my, hopefully, great grandson at that stage.
100% up.
So what exercise helps me do that?
Yeah.
And I'm going to start doing it now, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
That's where I'm at as well. Try and stay supple, stretch more. I've got terrible hamstrings, always have. Try and stretch more. Don't do ridiculous heavy weights and then just destroy your joints for no reason. Don't be those guys you see like that have, had great physiques in their 20s and then just fell off a cliff because they had too many injuries because they just trained silly and never got over themselves, or the big guts and the, all that kind of vibe. I'm trying to not do that. I just want to be strong and healthy and fit to keep, like you, just keep it going.
But is it? I mean, because you're quite young. I mean, it's quite insightful to be thinking about that at your age. I mean, my age is, I've got an excuse because I'm fucking, tapping on the door and of tapping on the door of being a septuagenarian. So, I got to get my shit together. So, but for you, well, why did you? This is my final question to you. But why do you feel that way? Why are you starting to do that now at such a? To me, it's a relatively speaking young age.
Yeah, I honestly, it's honestly exactly the same as you. I look ahead. I look at my son. I grew up with a single mother. I had no father, nothing, but never felt a lack of it because my mother did such a great job. And I'm making it up every single day as I go along. I just try not to watch Hamish Blake's Instagram because he'll make you feel like a shit dad no matter what you're doing. So, I'm looking at these children and I look at them and I say to myself, healthy husband, healthy father, doing everything he can with these children and keeping my mental faculty so I can keep working, keep being creative and keep going ahead. I know it's boring, but that's it.
No, but and by the way, people like Peter Attia or Dr. Peter Attia, they're in their 40s too, and that's his view. From a medical point of view, you got to start young.
Yeah, of course.
You got to start young.
Yes,
and it's a long road, very few turns.
Yep, and it's fun.
Yeah,
it's a fun road.
Yeah, and you can't be drinking. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but you can't really drink if you're doing that. If you want to do that consistently, you can't. Alcohol just sort of steals your soul a little bit, and you need your soul for particularly this time of year, middle of winter.
Yes,
you need your soul to get up and take yourself to training. Exactly. I mean, you're probably not doing it before you work.
No, I do after work.
You do it straight after your show.
Yep.
Yeah, but nonetheless, you still got to be able to do it.
That's right.
Or in your case, you got to get up. What time do you get up to get to your show?
About 4:40, something like that.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah, that's fine. So then you just go do, and then you got all that mental. You just drop it. You do something physical. And you bang, you're away.
And do you? And I keep saying final question, but do you? Is your show that 3-hour period?
Yeah.
Is that meditational for you?
What it is it's whatever the verb of amnesia is, it's that. So radio amnesia is real. So if you said to me, "What did you do today?" I couldn't tell you. Yeah. Something happened at 7:30. I couldn't tell you what it was. I couldn't tell you what happened at 6:30. I couldn't tell you what happened yesterday. But I know that when it was on, it was my whole focus.
Yeah. So but that's a pretty important thing. So you're so much absorbed in the moment, you're not thinking about anything else.
Nope.
But when the moment's over,
I move to the next one.
You can't remember what it is you're thinking about.
It's as soon as I hear it, I'm off to the next one. And so if you sat me in a room, I can feel 3 minutes. I can just feel it. I can feel it in my bones. And so you keep moving after that and you keep moving. But then you can switch modes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, I think that's good for your brain.
I agree.
I think people would say because I would say when you're working, you're actually giving your brain a rest from the noise.
I know what you mean. You absolutely are.
Yeah, that's why
you literally close the door, you can't hear anything.
Yeah, well, I'm the same in here in this show.
Yes, that's right.
This is a break from the noise.
Absolutely.
For me, which is why I enjoy it because I get a break from the noise.
Yep.
I don't necessarily feel like doing it before I do it because I'm too busy with the noise because I'm, before I walk in here,
I get it.
I'm looking at my emails. I'm
I know
looking at all
there's
the
a
shit
million
going
things
on.
going on.
But I'm thinking I shouldn't be doing this. But the moment I start it, I think the noise disappears and I actually enjoy and I get in my brain gets engorged in the moment.
Yes.
And that's cool.
Yes.
And then when I'm out, I get a bit tired. But it's tiring.
That means you've done it right.
Yeah, it wears me out. But I then go back to the noise.
But that means you've done it right.
Yeah, I mean, it's also good for my head, I think.
100%.
And
yes.
And Ed, I just want to say, like, I want to say this to you, if you don't mind me saying, obviously,
say whatever you like.
Say, but I want to thank you for coming on the show. But I want to thank you for your time, importantly. But I want to thank you for your intellectual time and your honesty, and you're allowing me to sort of play around a little bit, like dig into the weeds a bit. Especially,
I enjoyed it.
Especially when the analogy, I'm quite happy with myself, but the analogy of a dummy half, I quite like that.
I was happy with that too. I hadn't thought of myself in that way too, and I was happy with. I was happy with that too. I thought you did great. Now let's start from. So when I wandered in here today, out of 20, what level of engagement / guest did you think I was going to be?
My preconception.
Yeah.
Before, as you wandered in, or at what point?
No. When you realised that this is who you were talking to, and because when I said hello to you downstairs, you didn't know who I was.
That's because I hadn't read my brief.
I get it, but you didn't know me by face, so you didn't know who I was when I saw you outside.
No.
Yeah, and that's when I clicked.
But I jerried that you're the guest.
I got when I told you I was.
Yeah.
Yep. But then So
at that point you want to know? I thought I wonder who my guest is.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't read the brief. I didn't read the brief until I actually sit down.
No, I know.
Like
I saw you do it.
Minute before.
And in my mind, I thought when you were reading the brief, in my head, I thought to myself, well, he didn't know who I was when I walked past, which doesn't bother me. And then I thought, so he's reading his brief. So my first thought was, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to knock him off that fucking brief.
Yeah, well, I read, and the brief gets prepared for me, as you can imagine. But I never stick to the brief anyway.
No, I know.
Yeah,
but I thought,
but I have to read the brief out of respect.
There. No, I get it.
Yeah. But I do that on purpose because a whole lot of reasons. But the main purpose is I actually like to meet someone for the first time.
I like that. It's fun. It's
a
fun angle.
That's what this show's supposed to be.
But you need to. If I was producing this show, I would let that be known that you're leaning on that a bit. Because it gives it more context. Because it actually actually lets people understand that what a good interviewer you are.
Yeah, because I'm actually curious about you.
I know, but I would lean into if I was producing the show, I would find a way to lean into that.
She's sitting over there, tell her.
All right.
She's listening too, by the way.
I know. She's been taking notes, and I heard her muffle a laugh a couple of times. And now that we've had the chat, so let's say I was a 0 or under 0.
Sorry, answer your question. Out of 20, what did I think? Your question was out of 20. How am I scoring it?
So I started at under 0 because you didn't know who I was when I wandered in. Yep. And now that we've finished, where did I get to out of 20?
In terms of curiosity or interest?
Yeah, all of it overall.
I think you're very interesting. What I think most important for me is I like things that happen to me that don't always happen to me.
So do I.
And you got me to think. Good. So you made me think, and that was good. But I have to tell you. For me, it was a bit like mopping up a bit because you're everywhere. I mean, you're
focused.
To me, you're like, no, I'm not saying you're not focused, but to me, you're like, a version of sort of string theory. You're in a physics sense, you're everywhere but nowhere. You can be in 3 or 4 places at the same time.
That's true.
And which I find that fascinating. So,
so if I said if I said to you, we had a great time, let's go for a coffee, would you say yes or no?
Yeah, I guess if I had time, I'd go for coffee. Yeah.
Wow, that's good.
But I have to insert that precondition.
That's a great joke.
Good
Lovely to meet you.
Good to meet you.
That was great.
It was good. Happy to talk to you, mate. That was great.
Yeah, it was great fun.
Appreciate it. It was.